Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with Belgium-based full-intensity living coach Nico Verresen. As a former elite-level athlete, he has undergone world-class training in both the mind and the body. His top-level sporting career, combined with a master's degree in psychology, make his approach highly effective and very unique. He used to work as an assistant professor and quality-of-life researcher at the Free University of Brussels until he decided to fully focus on a martial arts career. He now uses the hypnosis practices and mindset strategies of world-class athletes with high performers in both business and sports. He's got a great outlook on life. Great interview. Enjoy. Well, hey, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. And before we get into your very interesting and varied life, I want to know, now that we're in a new year and we've gone through a couple years of the pandemic, how did you survive COVID, and how has that changed the way that you live your life now?
Well, the first thing is I was in COVID. I was in Bali when it was COVID. So the first year it was like the beaches were locked off. But to be honest, after a week or 2 weeks, we were allowed to do jiu-jitsu. It was not so much of a lockdown, so it was pretty easy to do. Also, I was in like a co-working space. There was almost nobody there. It was like having a private office. So the first lockdown was great, and the second lockdown, I came back to Belgium because I missed the funeral of my grandmother because I couldn't fly, and I don't like to be trapped, and so that was a bit hard. And then I was in Portugal, and that was much harder because in that moment I got locked in a little apartment, and so that was actually quite challenging. But at the same time, it gave me a great opportunity to, I'm a nerd, so I study a lot anyway. And so now I study 10 times more because, I couldn't do almost anything else. So that's how.
So there's so many things that go into who you are and what you do, and I want to kind of simplify it a little bit. I'm going to take you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day at a grade school. And one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Well, I help people to love intensity. I help people to really say, okay, I'm stressed, I'm angry, I'm anxious, I am in love, I am orgasmically ecstatic. How can I handle this? How can I go through this and grow? Not despite, but because of the challenges that I face. So that is the core of what I do. And that, of course, expresses itself in all those different domains, in helping people in business, in their personal lives, in their intimate lives. It is all about, okay, how can I not run away from intense experience?
So talk to me a little bit about your life, where you were born and raised, and kind of how you got these motivations to become who you are. And actually, before you do that, when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Third grade, grade school, eh? Well, I wanted to be a Native American. I wanted to be a warrior. But then I realized that it was not really possible, so then I decided to become a ninja. And when I realized that was also bullshit, then, by that time I found Muay Thai. I was around 14, and I became a warrior. That's what I did with most of my life until an injury put a stop to all that. But that's what I want to become a warrior, and I did. I want to live in a castle, and I did for a few months. So it's pretty interesting. So I was born in Belgium. I was a very, let's say, intense kid. I loved climbing trees. I loved fighting. And in Belgium, soccer is really big. I thought it was for girls. I was like, what is that? Kicking a ball. So for me, that was really, I had a hard time finding connection with people. And then when I got a bit older, I started fighting. I started becoming more confident. And then at the same time, I started reading books in the beginning about, more tantric sexuality because I was a little weird kid. But then very soon I went into psychology. And, that's why later in life I became a psychologist too. And so these two things were always there. It was like fighting and then psychology. And people always think that's a very weird combination, but to me it's not, because I realized not so long ago why that fighting was so intense, so something that I love so much, because it creates kind of a realness. It creates a kind of a real connection that you have with almost nothing else besides in a more intimate sphere. It's you are there, the other person is there. You both know what you're doing. You prepared for months or for weeks. You have in your corner people that help you every step on the way. Around you, you have thousands of people, and you're there. You make or break. And what is most is the connection that you have with yourself through your connection with this other person. And so, and I learned a lot about how to enjoy that stress, how to enjoy that challenge, how to enjoy even losing. That was a hard one, though. I'm a very proud guy. So it took me a long time before I could really appreciate even that flavor of life. Yeah.
But both of those require a mental strength, a fortitude, and a way of learning new things about yourself.
Yeah, but to me, it's always like I always say, I'm a connection addict. I love connection. That's why I do a lot of partner dance, like salsa, bachata, kizomba is my favorite because it's very, very. But as a man, you lead everything, so the woman has to follow everything, which I like, But it's about that. It's like and that's why I love hypnosis too, because in that moment I get so closely connected to myself through my connections with other people. So when I work with a lot of the entrepreneurs or the champions, very often they are so well in what they're doing because they do what other people will not do. They sacrifice so much. But the reason you sacrifice so much, and very often it's because you have troublesome or absent personal relationships. And so I truly believe that really to go to the next level, one of the best ways is to be in a committed relationship. Whether that's a real deep friendship or like a deep connection with your family, but by by daring to look into the mirror of a very close relationship, well, yeah, you will see things that otherwise you will never see. I truly believe this. If you want to grow, a lot of people say, I will wait wait to get somebody, to get to know somebody because I need to first work on myself. And I understand that, but there's a limit to that because a lot of our limits only come up in a dynamic situation with another person. So, yeah.
So, in your life, who's been a role model or a hero for you?
Well, I was very lucky. My father was one of the most affectionate, strong people I've ever met with an integrity that I've never seen since him. And he was very ill, so he raised me from when I was 6. He became ill. I saw everybody dropped him, and still, he was so proud. Nobody could see that he was sick, but we knew, but he was a very proud man. And so I saw how disease does not have to break you, how like being betrayed by the people you love, like being dropped as a sack of potatoes does not need to take away your beauty. And so that was that, when he was still alive, he was my best friend, and he's now almost like he's somebody that I really aspire to be like. I am a completely different person. I'm much wilder than my father, but the main values of strength and love and integrity, that's something really beautiful. And then I was very lucky, like my trainer, the gym that I started training in, he is another absolutely caring, warm man, much more alpha macho man. But he gave me a completely different model of how you can be a valuable, strong man, but with a heart. So that I had the pleasure to see two absolutely iconic men. That they were just blue collar guys, but they're smart. They have such integrity. I think 99% of the men could come after. And I'm sad that so little young boys or young men had that pleasure.
Let me ask you this. Every day you wake up, you have things that you want to do with your life. And I'm curious, what motivates you? You're obviously a very highly driven person. And also, how do you quantify a really good day? Like when you're at the very end of the day and you look back on a day, how do you say that that's a good day?
Oh, it's very hard to say because, like, to be really honest, most of my days I love. Whether I am going into a deep connection with a lady or with friends just to date and peers, whether I work 15 hours. Because I've created a situation for myself where I can choose what to do every day. Like the situation, the life that I live is completely chosen. I'm so free, and that's a gift. It also comes, of course, with a bunch of responsibilities because if my life will go wrong, it's my responsibility.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, that's it. Like, I really, since my father died when I was 21, and I learned very early on that it's about the experience now, it's about the process. The goals are good to give you a direction, but living is done in the now. Living is done every day, going through the process.
So when you kind of kick back at the end of the proverbial day and think about your life, what are you the proudest of? What has been something that you've done that you really are the proudest of?
Well, the first thing that I'm very proud of is the working with the people I work with. They are very ambitious people, but very often they carry a very deep pain that almost nobody sees. Because they're the CEOs of the company, they're world champions, like people look up to them. And very few people dare to talk to them like human beings. It's like they become these icons and then, they're not human anymore. It's a very lonely life. That's why they say it's lonely at the top. So like when I can really open the door for them, when I can teach them how they can learn to trust others more, like that when I see them having a real breakthrough, well, then it's not my day, my year is good. Like, so that's one thing. The second thing is, of course, when I have a real authentic conversation or intimate moment with another person. That can be a friend, it can be a family member, it can be a lady. For me, the time spent together is such a valuable jewel. Because I'm really aware of how short life is. And so for me, if you spend time with me, that's a gift. If you choose to spend your most precious commodity, which is your time on earth, you don't know how much you have. You spend that with me, and you're really present. You're not with your nose in a phone. That is such a beautiful thing. And because I know how precious it is, I also don't take it for granted. To me, that's not my right. Nobody has right on my time. When I spend time with you, I will choose it. And so that's why my most spiritual practice of the last years was trying to let go of entitlement. And my God, I have a big ego, so I have a lot of entitlement. But once you learn to let that go, there's so little to be angry about. And there's so much to be grateful about. Because then, when you're not entitled to nothing, everything that you get, every beautiful moment is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flower that just flowers open for you without you asking for it, without you expecting it.
Yeah, that's well said. Is there anybody that's alive on the planet right now that you would love to meet and talk to that you're interested in having a conversation with?
Good question. It used to be David Schnarch. He's one of the only ones who combines sexual therapy and relationship therapy. He was trained by Erickson, who's one of the best hypnotists, but he just died during COVID. So it's very hard for me to say. There's a lot of people I think are very interesting, but there are very few people that I know. You know what? Yeah, you're right. I would love to meet Andrew Huberman. Yeah, it's a professor from Princeton. He has a podcast. He's, to me, super interesting person, and yeah, like Jordan Peterson, I would love to meet too and talk with him. The way they can communicate, the way they can teach you complex things in a very understandable way. That's absolutely inspiring to me. Yeah.
So let's say you have a dream tonight and you run into a younger version of yourself, say in your 20s, and you could give that young version a piece of advice based on the wisdom and the life that you've led. What would you tell your young version?
Learn to compose your energy. See that Rocky was a liar. Like Rocky has this speech, like no matter how hard you get hit, you keep going forward. That was me. And so what happened was that my mind was unbreakable. Literally, my mindset was unbreakable for a long time, while my body was not. So I detached my retina 7 times. I broke my arms 3 times. I destroyed my potential because I did not take my body's health and well-being into account. Did not matter. And a lot of people look up to that, and that's why I became really popular. But at the same time, if I would have been a bit smarter, if I would, instead of just taking the hits because I like to be a tough man, I could evade him. I just didn't. And so if I would have done that, I would still be in the ring or in the cage. Like I do miss it every day. There's almost nothing that is so, that makes me feel so alive as that. That's why I dance. That's why I love women, because just a deep connection with a person that is truly there. That's the only thing that comes close. But like the feeling of aliveness that comes when you are a warrior, when you face another warrior, and you know it's time for battle. It's a very, many people don't understand, but it's a very intimate moment. Absolutely.
So let's dig into the essence of who you are. Everyone out there has an idea or a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you're the one living your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a good one. Well, I think I'm going to be really honest. For the longest time, I was a coward. People thought I was a bad boy, and I was a bad boy. Why? Because I got hurt. And because then when I was happy, I started hurting the people I loved most. But it's also because of that I understand why a lot of the go-getters are really unhappy inside, and why I understand them, and why when they look at the mirror, they don't see the person that everybody looks up to. When they look at night, because they can't feel sleep, because they feel that pressure, that anxiety in their belly, in that pressure on their chest. When they look up at the ceiling, they can't sleep because they know, is this all there is? I know that feeling. And because of that, now, my life is so beautiful. And so for me, it's like, I miss the connection. And if people can get closer to themselves and can learn to really embrace all who they are, with all their rats and all their stinky parts too, then my job is done. Like I said in the beginning, I want to help people to taste with attention, with engagement, all the flavors of life. But there's much less. It's a bit of a tantric vision, You have the creation, you have the sustenance, and you have destruction, and all things have a beautiful part. If there's no death, if there's not a limit to our lives, then our time becomes much less valuable. But now, because I know so well how short life is, how unpredictable it is, then the moments I have are a gift. It's such a beautiful realization. It took me a long time, but yeah, that's it. I am a life enjoyer. Let's say that. Yeah.
I love it, man. Nico, if anybody out there wants to learn more about you, your services, anything about your world, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, 2 places. Or you can go on Instagram, Nico_Verresen, 2 R's and S. Or they go to my website, performwithpleasure.com. Performwithpleasure.com. So in both ways you can contact me, and I will come back to you as soon as possible.
Nico, you have such a beautiful story, full of hope and wonderful things, man. Thank you for opening up, and I wish you the best in 2023.
Likewise, my man.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, sports, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino in the iTunes Store or Spotify, and visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.